What's up everyone, Moses here, bringing you another Path of Exile video, and today we are going to talk about Consecrated Path. I played a Jug, I believe it was last time, but since last time the stat sticks were nerfed, and they're just no longer valid as a gameplay. So I decided to pick up a weapon I've never played with before, and it's in fact extremely underused, utilized. In my opinion, one of the best weapons in the video game for pretty much every elemental build. It does have its drawbacks, but I'm going to talk about it. It is the VoidForge. So VoidForge, what it does is, sure, it gives us some life, it's got some attack speed, fist damage, but what it actually does is 300% of physical damage as extra damage of a random element. This is a constant, okay, so it's not going to change, right? So basically, whatever damage you're doing, 300% of that as extra damage of a random element, that is, lightning, cold, or fire, and your elemental damage can shock. Okay, so whatever elemental damage you're dealing, you now can shock. It doesn't matter if it's fire. It doesn't matter if it's only lightning. All right. So the way that we go about it, it's very similar to the way I went with my Scourge Arrow build. If you guys watched it, Scourge Arrow, what I was doing, I was using a Doomfletch Prism, and I was stacking a lot of physical damage, a lot of flat physical damage, and I was using very similar setup to the one that I'm using right now with Tomb Fists and stacking a lot of physical damage. Only in this case, we're using physical damage to attacks and physical damage to swords, right? And we're using it with Murderous Eye Jewels instead of Searching Eye Jewels. That's the gist of it. That's basically the same build, only with slightly different concept. As in this case, we need to convert some of our damage, and of course it's a melee build, and there's a bunch of other things that are different about it. It's not a bow build, and so on. But in the end, that's the idea behind the build. Stack a lot of flat physical damage, and then get that flat physical that's being added to your weapon, 300% of that as extra physical damage. So we are using Mark of the Elder, which then gives us the attack damage if the other ring is a shaper item. So the other ring is a shaper item. It's a steel ring, and shaper steel rings are actually pretty cheap. I picked this one up for 1 exalt, and I crafted it myself with some alterations. So overall it cost me about 3.5 exalts just to alt myself some flat fizz, some life, some cold res, and then multi-modded for the resistances, some elemental damage attacks that I needed. Pretty solid ring. Over here we got an amulet. I think I paid just a couple of exalts for this one as well. Flat fizz, some life, elemental. No, I believe I paid like 40 or 50 chaos for this one. I think I hit quite a nice bargain for this one. So again, stuff can go extremely insane. Path of Exile extremely expensive, but in this case, managed to find some pretty nice bargains. It doesn't have crit multi, right, but it does have some cold damage, which benefits our cold, some flat fizz, which is our main concern, mental damage with attacks, some crit chance, big life roll, some attributes, not too bad. Consecrated Path helmet, I believe, I don't remember how much I paid for it, maybe 75, 80 chaos, and then I crafted with pristine fossils. I hit resist, crafted another resist, and then got a bunch of life, percent life over here. Mana is obviously irrelevant in this case, but that's the helmet that I got. The boots, we don't need movement speed, so that makes boots extremely cheap, right? So these were like 40 chaos. I just picked up boots with like life and resists, and we're leap slamming everywhere, so that's what we're doing in mapping, and leap slamming is not affected by movement speed, right? The gloves are Tomb Fist, but again, if you're going for budget, just one socket will be just enough. And I did craft flat fizz with swords, and life. These were my main 3 stats that I wanted: life, flat fizz, to swords, and to attacks, and that's what we got. And then I slammed whatever when I hit the 3 mods, and I had a free suffix. I slammed, was trying to get something good. In this case I got avoid being chilled, avoid being frozen, rip. In this case I got chance to gain onslaught on kill, basically rip. We have an onslaught flask, we don't really care. And then over here I actually got increased global critical strike chance, which is not bad, over here. And I have another one right here. We got additional physical damage against abyssal monsters, which is rip. So rip 4 exalts basically just on these jewels. But you know, whenever you got the money for it, I mean, might as well take a chance. Most of the time it's going to turn to shit, but sometimes you're actually going to get maybe something good, like increased critical strike chance. 1 out of 4, whatever. Not the best. It was a kind of a fun crafting session overall. Spent a bunch of exalts, way too much than what I should and what you should, but you know, for the entertainment of the viewers in the community, we're doing that. This jewel I picked up, I believe it was like 30-40C. Stuff like that you can easily find for very cheap, because when it doesn't have life, even if it does have some pretty good solid stats, like here we got crit multi, crit chance, attack speed swords, general attack speed, 12 attack speed, 18 crit multi, and crit chance. You know, it's a sick jewel. It adds a lot of damage, but it doesn't have life, so it doesn't cost 15 exalts. It only costs like 30-40C, so you can find stuff like that for pretty cheap. This jewel is also pretty necessary, since VoidForge doesn't have an 8 crit chance roll. The base crit chance is only 5, and we are a crit build. So this led me to use Hatred, and increase, because hatred of course is physical, is extra damage, right? So this is what we're using for our reservation. And then physical, sorry, 1.8% of critical strike chance, sorry, excuse me, while affected by hatred, 1.8 to critical strike chance. This will add to the base critical strike chance of your sword, so instead of 5%, it will be 6.8%. Right, and then all the multipliers, the increases that you're going to get, are going to be adding up, and then multiply that. So that 11% of 6 point, and so on. This is why I went with Assassin to further get that 1% to critical strike chance. So again, our base critical strike chance of the sword, it's 1 from Assassin and 1.8 from the Watcher's Eye. So that's 2.8 total. To 5%, all of a sudden it's 7.8 base critical strike chance, and then on top of all the stuff that we're getting, we are unbuffed currently. Consecrated Path, it will show 58.4% right here, main hand critical strike chance. There's no offhand, it's just one main hand. So 58.4%, and that's without power charges. And again, since we're assassins, we are going to be getting power charge on crit, 10%. That will keep us, while mapping, having full, you know, permanent power charges constantly. So 3 power charges. It'll put us around 70+%. With diamond, we're going to be critting all the time. Right? So yeah, stacking the crit. Damage from crits cannot be reflected. Chance to gain power charge on crit, and increased movement speed, which is kind of irrelevant for us because we're leap slamming anywhere. Anyways, and for the second Ascendancy I went with Jug. Easy accuracy puts us at 92% chance to hit, and this is tier 16 monsters. I just killed Forge of the Phoenix, and I just killed Lair of the Hydra with this. You know, so we just did that. Easy clap with Juggernaut. We get that accuracy, and we get you know, free endurance charges. So we generate power charges with Assassin, we generate endurance charges with Juggernaut, and the accuracy, and cannot be stunned, and increased damage per endurance charge is 15%. Not that much in terms of damage, but the setup does enough damage, so I went, you know, just easy way to get charges, and 1000 accuracy from Jug on the Scion tree over here. Of course, you can choose whatever you want. You can make it a pure Jug, you can make it a Pathfinder, you can make it really whatever it is that you want, and you can still use a very similar tree that will yield very similar results. I personally just love Scion, and I think for this build it will go very well in this case. So yeah, let's talk about links, I guess. So for the links, we are using Consecrated Path, 50% converted from physical to fire, and then we're using 40% more conversion. So overall, we have 90% physical converted to elemental damage. Consecrated path linked with elemental damage attacks, melee physical damage, increased critical strike chance, obviously hypothermia, and increased area of effect, consecrated effect. Concentrated path concentrated effect for bosses, for that extra more area damage that we're getting. For the rest of the links, I am using a Val Ancestral Warchief. So Ancestral Warchief gives us more melee damage when it's up, and deals whatever damage it deals. Again, we are converting 90% from physical because the line that says deal no non-elemental damage. So all of our damage is 100% elemental. Okay, only 90% of our actual physical damage is then converted because Consecrated Path 50%, and 40 from the tree converted to cold, but we gain 300 as extra, so that 90% is not that relevant. What we're getting is that 300% extra, which is pretty huge, and then we are converting with physical to lightning. Because Ancestral Warchief itself is physical, there's no conversion here. So I use physical to lightning, faster attacks, elemental damage with attacks, melee physical damage, and damage on full life for the Ancestral Warchief. And of course, the Val Ancestral Warchief is just so much fun to watch. These totems just run around. It stacks twice. They deal massive amount of damage, really helpful against single targets, and just a joy to watch as they jump around between targets on Syndicate members and stuff like that. Pretty fun stuff, you're going to see that. For the rest of the gear, Mark of the Elder and Steel Ring, we talked about already. Life resists, flat fizz, life, ele damage, crit multi if you can have it. In this case, I didn't have crit multi, which is fine. Jewels, we were stacking with corroded, pristine, and jagged to get these type of results. This is the most insane jewel you'll probably ever see. It has tier 1 to swords, tier 1 life, tier 2 to attacks, and that onslaught whatever. But this is an extremely rare roll. Over here I got just double tier 1 rolls, but tier 4 life roll, right? And then that chance to avoid being chilled, avoid being frozen, nobody really cares about that. But big damage rolls, and then pretty low on the life. Over here, again, tier 3 to swords, tier 1 to attacks, some life, some crit chance. Over here, again, same stuff, just you want to stack as much physical damage that you can for swords and to attacks. This is tier 3, tier 2 life, tier 1 phys to attacks. And yeah, here we talked about this, we already talked about. Unnatural Instincts, as always, if you're Scion and you can afford it, and your crit build, the 45% crit multi you're getting from here. Attack speed in this case over here, some life nodes is what we're getting from the Unnatural Instinct Jewel that allows us to have all these small unallocated nodes for free in a radius. Feels pretty good. Flask, we're using Staunching, healing, instant flask. Wise Oak, kind of very important because we are dealing damage of a random element. It will be fire, cold, and lightning. We cannot, cater towards one element. We're dealing all elements, so we do want that 15% elemental damage penetration. Pretty much our only source of LA pen on the build, unless you are getting a Boots enchant, which I hate lab, and I'm not gonna do it. So this is the boot enchant I'm going to have. I can't stand labs, so I can't farm it. But if you guys want, you can farm the Boots enchant with the elemental penetration. It's very strong, especially for a build like this. Only elemental, 10% is pretty huge, but I just can't go through that, So Wise Oak for me, the only way of penetration for this build, 15%. I mean, there's elemental penetration over here, I believe, yeah, 5%. Yeah, so 20% total while Flask is up. Silver of Onslaught for warding, removal of curses. Lion's Roar obviously goes hand in hand in the build, and since Consecrated Path teleports to the enemy, you don't really care that it knocks them back. It actually doesn't bother you at all. So yeah, get that more melee physical damage, and Diamond Flask for critting. Let's run an armory map just for the kicks. Yeah, let's run some second additional abyss. More rare monsters. No, no, and no. Let's roll that. Additional monsters. Additional rare monsters. And additional cold monsters. Okay. Let's do that. Reason why I'm not doing the Minotaur map, which is going to be the next in doing the Uber Elder, I'm going to do it on stream. It's just like, I just came back home from work, and I know I'm going to just get one-shotted by Minotaur. He's just going to one-tap me, and it's going to be a bit of a bummer. So I'm just avoiding doing that. Okay? But you're more than welcome. Hopefully we'll have an Uber Elder video for this character. Most likely we're going to have an Uber Elder video on the YouTube in the next couple of days, okay? It's just that right now, after a night shift, I am kind of tired, and I don't want this build to look bad simply because I'm just tired. Alright, so let's just do a regular map and die on a regular map, because, you know, it's the little things that get you. Let's do just a bunch of abysses, breaches. Let's do breaches. I mean, yeah, you can always die, but I just rather not get one slam by Minotaur right now. Just not dodge it and just die. Those things tend to happen every once in a while. But yeah, this is a pretty juicy map, tier 16, an armory, so you can get the feel of what's happening here. You are jumping around, I will say that. There's a bunch of displacement happening. But like, you're slamming and shit's just getting wrecked, and the build feels very good. Against oh, these guys explode. Against these guys you want to, well, yeah, they're dead. See these boys? Yeah, the Val. Hey, that fled moves to research. Hey, that's what I wanted. Sure, sure. Oh wait, there's an intervention. Oh, okay. I guess I should do that. Chimera is only 1 star, but I mean, maybe we'll do that. Oh, there's some beasts. So yeah, the Val war totems, war chief totems are they're pretty badass. I mean. Okay, some beasts. They're pretty badass. I mean, they just destroy stuff. Really helps with single target. That's already very solid. It's just that, you know, I had a 6-link ready there and not much else to do. But you could totally just run a 4-link. You know, with faster attacks, Fist to Lightning, LE damage. And the totems, and then have like another. See, look at them boys, just wrecking the ancestral war chiefs. But of course you can. I mean, the war chief itself is not something you kind of rely on. It gives a little bonus. I think it's a more 8% more melee damage. So it's kind of a nice thing to have. It's a big damage buff for us, but obviously we don't really care about that. All we do care about is our main setup. I just, you know, again, I had a 6-link and I was like, okay, I mean, what else are you gonna do in a melee build but put a totem? So yeah, we're pretty much one-tapping everything on this tier 16 map, getting some good XP in the process. We are only level 83, so oh, I think there's a natural spawn of a breach, or did I do breaches? I don't remember. What is this? Looks like Zoff. I wish Zoff spawns and we just kind of like slam him. Would be kind of nice. I did do an 82 enriched, not enriched, pure breachstone, and I killed the boss also on stream with this character when I was like 84, 83. Just when I changed to my actual setup with the Mark of the Elder. Breach was juicy. So many splinters. So much stuff. Excavation map. Wow, I'm actually picking up white maps. Always picking up these. I recommend you guys to do the same. You see, I have like essences, in my opinion, are like the worst thing to deal. You know, a worst thing to deal with. They're annoying. They like you need to micromanage them all the time. Just opening a new tab to put them in is kind of annoying. So what I do is just from the very first days of the league, instead of like handling essences, what I do is just highlight spirit shields. Spirit shields, not any spirit shields, but ones that have the highest implicit, which is 15 to 20%. There's 3 spirit shields. Fossilized, ivory, and bone shield. Okay, so fossilized ivory, this is the boss by the way. Fossilized ivory and bone spirit shields. These spirit shields all have 15 to 20% implicit roll, and whenever they drop, I just use my essences. See, I have my essences always in my inventory, and I always use essences, and sometimes they roll well. Sometimes they roll incredibly well. And most of the times they roll garbage, because, you know, it's like using an alchemy orb on a white item. Most of the time it's going to roll garbage, but every once in a while it will roll pretty amazing. And, you know, I do have a history of having a pretty well rolled shields that I've sold from multiple exalted orbs, or used, you know, most the part why I'm doing this is because I'm using spirit shields on my Arc Trapper whenever, or Glacial Cascade Monitor. So whenever I start a league, there's always like a large supply of essences, and I got nothing to do with them. So I just, yeah, it's kind of a habit that I keep throughout the league, and I recommend you guys to do the same. Just pick up those shields, and you know, you just need to hit life, crit for spells, and some resist. And this time around, if there's an open prefix, there's a new veiled mod that gives you 9% of you know, non-chaos as extra chaos damage. Wow, this abyss just keeps going. So then you could do, you can do that. 9% of chaos is extra chaos, non-chaos extra chaos, and basically GG. With just some life, some crit, and some resist. A spiritual like that could be worth quite a bit early on in the league, and that's what I've been doing with them. Also, if you actually look at spirit shields, you'll see that they're not highlighted in Neversync's loot filter. I actually drew his attention to it, and I told him about that, but I don't know, he never changed it. So you guys pay attention that these 15 to 20% spell damage implicit rolls, fossilized, bone spirit shields, and ivory spirit shields are not showing on your Neversync loot filter. Okay, not rare version of them, not white version of them. You don't need the magic version of them, but you know, rares and whites are not showing up. So make sure to fix that whenever you start a new league and you download the Neversync loot filter. Just make sure to do that, because otherwise, you know, you're missing out on potentially very, very, very good shields. So yeah, what do we have? That's tier 3, cold to spells, crit multi. Let's reroll tier 1 life. I mean, here. Lightning damage, cold damage, crit multi with a two-handed with dual wielding. No, it's garbage. So yeah, guys, this was the build. Consecrated path feels pretty good, man. Every league I like to do a melee build, and this time I decided to revisit and also use a weapon I've never used before in a pretty similar setup that I thought might work. just like it did with Scourge Arrow, which was a very, very fun build. I'm going to be playing this build for a few days. You guys are more than welcome to join the stream and see how we fare against the bigger targets in the days to come. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments below or drop by the stream. I'll answer all your stuff. Thank you, and I'll see you guys next time.